Welcome to this learning session brought to you by the Community of Practice team and group coaching ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. Allow me to introduce to you all the hosting team for this session. My name is Kavita Lobo and I'm your host for today. With me in the hosting team, I have Sagarika Skantaria and Nandini Gaskar. Sagarika and myself, we lead the Community of Practice team and group coaching for ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. And we also have Nandini helping us with admin and tech. Nandini works very closely with the ICF Mumbai Charter chapter in the management committee team. Yeah. So a couple of hygiene points before we get going. Kindly keep yourself off camera and be on mute. This is to avoid disruption in the transmission that could be caused due to bandwidth issue. During the session, if you have a burning question, please put it out there in the chat box, and Sagarika will share with us speaker and curate them at different points during the session. We will also request all the participants to come on camera for a lovely group photo before we start the final Q&A session towards the end of this, this time that we have together. We will also launch a quick feedback poll after the Q&A session, and I request everybody to be there and share your feedback so that we can serve you better the next time. For all those who wish to claim their CCU for this session, we will post a link in the chat box after the feedback poll. Please use that link to enter your name, full name as you wish it to appear in the CCU certificate. And we'll also invite you to stay on after the session if we have some time for a lovely networking time. Finally, let's just come to the session. What are we doing here together, right? So let's just jump in. So today's topic is journeying from individual coaching to team coaching, expanding your practice, identifying opportunities to designing team coaching engagements. The demand for team coaching is rising, and I think all of us would unanimously agree to that. As the complexity of organizational and societal challenge grow, what leaders are catching on to is that the team needs to be resourced as the unit that can be address those challenges. So coaches who have traditionally focused on one-on-one are now being called upon to expand their skill set to include team coaching. In our time together, we will explore the journey from individual coaching to team coaching, and whether you're new to team coaching or looking to deepen your practice. And this talk will provide practical strategies for transitioning into this rewarding field. And for that, we have an expert speaker with us, none other than Dr. Catherine Carr. Catherine has graciously agreed to share her knowledge and wisdom on team coaching. I have the privilege to introduce her today to all of you. She is a master corporate executive coach, master team coach, supervisor, psychotherapist, and is Royal Roads University faculty with over 25 years of experience. She has extensive experience in public and not-for-profit sector, including helping to launch government-wide leadership and team coaching program. She has a broad experience working across industry and sectors. Catherine coaches for TEDx talks, supporting environmental and social justice presenters. Catherine's early doctorate research advanced the team coaching field, and I think we are all extremely privileged to have her here, talk about team coaching. Her publications are peer-reviewed. She has several research articles under her belt. She has co-authored 2 books. I've read both of them, and one is high performance team coaching, and second is 50 tips of terrific teams. And I must tell you, I carry this book every single day. And whenever I get an opportunity to, talk to leaders, I open and share a tip. So I am grateful personally to Catherine on this one. She is also right now co-authoring a book with none other than Dr. Peter Hawkins himself on systemic team coaching. There is so much, just a lot of work, and one wonderful thing that's happening is that Catherine is traveling to India, and she will be here in the month of April doing a team coaching session. So whoever is interested, please connect with ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. And most importantly, I must tell you that today is Catherine's birthday, and she has been super kind to us to make herself available for us today. And I want to let's just just put our camera on and go off mute, and let's wish her happy birthday. Let's do this together. Dexter, I'm hoping that you can lead us here. Let's do this.
Okay. All right. Let's do
Happy
that.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy
birthday
birthday to you.
Let's click some pictures.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
Birthday
Happy
to
birthday to
you.
you.
Happy birthday.
Birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
I hope Catherine is there.
Happy birthday.
Yes, yes, she's here. She's right here. She's smiling ear to ear. I can see that.
Thank
So
you,
let's-
everyone. That's so delightful. And where I am at 7:30 in the morning, so you're my second happy birthday. So thank you.
So she's joining us from North Carolina, US. Otherwise, she lives in Canada. So let's get ready to be inspired by her wisdom and insights today. Catherine, the stage is yours, and we're all looking forward. And thank you again.
Thank you so much, Kavita.
Let's
Hello,
let's all go
everyone.
off camera and mute
Yeah.
ourselves, please.
Thank you for all the lovely good wishes. I feel very warm and connected in your community now. Thank you. Okay, so it is exciting to be with you and to share some of my thinking and to hear yours about team coaching. What I hope to do today is to really support you wherever you are in your practice to take this farther, because we do have a huge need for more team coaches in the world and to move in this direction. Now, I've got a slide here of looking back, looking forward. Here's two of my three grandchildren. And I feel a responsibility to do something in the world for them, to leave a world that is full of opportunity and possibility for them. So my team coaching work, I see myself dedicating to my grandchildren, as well as to my mother-in-law who could not, my mother-in-law who could not go to school. She's 99 now and was just busy raising babies. So would have loved to have done all of what we are doing in this learning space. So let's all think about who we dedicate our learning to and what it's in service of, who and what our learning and our work is in service of. So looking back, looking forward is also about the field of team coaching. So we're going to do a poll to see what you do in your practice now. And then I'm going to track to where in my world most of the team coaching is in terms of this sort of menu right here. It's going to be more than one-on-one. So we're just going to see what the experience band of this group is as we start.
There's a poll that has been launched. We request people to quickly share their views here.
Yeah, and as you're doing it, I'll just comment a little bit more. So when I started team coaching and doing team coaching research, I started team coaching 20 years ago, and I started doing the research 15 years ago. And at that time, people really hadn't heard of team coaching. There was some sense of organizational development, what you do for a whole organization. And there was team training or facilitation, come in, do one workshop for us and fix us, or lead a topic, how do we have difficult conversations? But there wasn't team coaching. And so, coaches at that time needed to educate. And then in my doctorate research with another coach, Jacqueline Peters, we looked at what is in the field around the world and pulled it together into a model so that we had a starting point for team coaches to have a shared language. And that's one of the books that Kavita mentioned. So we will see, how are we doing with the poll? Where's the state of this group in their work? Might still be answering. Well, as you can let me know when the poll's ready. I'll just keep going for now. Things have changed today. Yeah,
Are you able to see the poll? It's been long.
I cannot see the poll. Can you see the poll? Here, I'll come out of sharing and
yeah,
maybe that'll help.
Let's just quickly,
Yeah, let's see where we are.
Nandini, can you just share the
Yeah.
poll results? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And you know, newer coaches also won't have probably much experience in this space. So all of you are doing one-on-ones. You're all coaching. Fantastic. About 85% of you are coaching leaders in your practice. Okay. 61 are doing team building training. About almost half are doing group coaching. And a third of you are doing team coaching over time. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. That is really interesting to see where you are in your work. So lots of the team building training, a little less of the team coaching, which is exactly what I want to talk about today. So that's perfect. And all of you, even if you're just doing one-on-one and moving to maybe coaching leaders, this will also apply because it's about how do we coach the leader to coach their team. You are always coaching the team, no matter who's in front of you, if you have a leader. Because they're talking about their team. They're talking about the team they're on, above the team, their direct reports, and perhaps they're talking about their horizontal peer team. You are always thinking about and listening to and through the person you are coaching. Okay. So why team coaching? You heard it a bit in the intro. It is an emerging, developing market that is exploding in some places. Why? Because our world is so interconnected. It is so complex now that it requires diverse thinking and different ways of responding to problems. We are well past the time when a single leader can solve a complex problem. It doesn't happen. Or it doesn't happen, it may sound like it's going to happen, but it's usually too simplistic. We have to be bringing teams of people together to deal with the interconnectedness of this complex world. And within that, what we're finding is leaders are in over their head, emotionally, sometimes cognitively, certainly in terms of their bandwidth, how much time they have. And so leaders will often work harder, try harder, do more. That's not the answer. That's a recipe for burnout. If they just try and, hold it more, it's like hub and spoke. The leader's at the center and all these team members are reporting into the leader. That is not a sustainable model. We have to increase the capacity of the team as a whole to own and respond to the challenges of today and tomorrow. And the team leader needs to come in as an orchestrator of that, not the manager of it. They need to shift from coaching projects and problems to coaching people and teams of people. And so they're often in over their head because they're overwhelmed with all of what they have to do. And for those of you doing one-on-one with leaders, help them shift to how do you help your team own the problem collectively with you. So that, as you can see, the solution is to draw on more than the sum of the parts. And there's so much diversity in a team. Research shows that the answer of the collective team is usually way better than the answer of that one smart leader. So how are they drawing on the diversity and the strengths, and do they have the skills to do that? That's something you can bring. Team coaches often get overwhelmed too. So if the team leader is overwhelmed and the team is overwhelmed, the coach gets overwhelmed. We absorb it. Know that your ability to help the team pause, reflect, think about their key priorities, and organize differently is gold. Just that alone. So you see the second thing, which is when you do that, you're helping a team to communicate, collaborate, resolve conflict, and manage today while building for tomorrow in a way more effective way. So you can ask teams questions like, what is the one thing we can do today that will be a quick win that'll make a difference? Or what can we uniquely do that the world of today and tomorrow needs that is our team's role to do? Not our downline, let's delegate. What is our unique purpose? What do we need to do? And the world around the team will create that purpose. The world around needs something from that team. The team doesn't even have to figure it all out on their own. They need to draw on those that their work serves and supports so that they're net positive. So they add value. They don't just sustain. They don't just make money. They are making the world a better place for those who work for their organization and those their work serves. Manufacturing, tech, not-for-profit, you name the sector, their teams are working in service of. So net positive is that idea of add value. And that's a lot. But as I said earlier, you can do one or two things and that team will be so grateful that you work with. So how do we transition from one-to-one to team? And know that as I'm going through these slides, you're welcome to invite our wonderful ICF hosts here to pause and say, we've got a question. We'll stop at any point. But I want to help you to think about how do you shift from one-on-one to team, or for those of you doing team training and team building, to team coaching. Those of you doing group, to expand to team coaching. And beyond, I'll just tell you the future for you in 5 years is once you're doing team coaching, it's team and network coaching. So it's across organizations, and that's the book I'm writing right now. So there are simply limits to one-on-one. There's only so much you can do with one leader with your time. It's important. It is absolutely important for that leader to have that reflective space. But in an organization, it's costly if you're going to give all of your top leaders one-on-one and not think about what can we do collectively with this team. Further, there's research that shows in one-on-one coaching that unless the coach is skilled at thinking about the team business results and asking that leader, what's the shift in you needed to create the shift in the team, to create the shift in the business results, it tends to not happen. It doesn't happen in a strong enough way to make a difference at the team level, enough of a difference. So how do you think about, even if you're coaching a single leader, how do you think about the team and what the leader needs to shift in order to shift the team? Because the team is the key organizational unit of performance these days. It is a team that is deciding on priorities and hopefully co-creating results so that they are high performing, they're meeting their targets, and they are resilient. They're not burning out. This is not a work harder routine. It's a work smarter, and a work smarter together. In my research, and this also harkens back to some earlier research from Wagaman and Hackman, 60s and 70s and a little bit further on. High-performing teams show three things. You'll see this in my model. They get better together. Every project, every cycle, they're learning together and they get better at how they work together. The second thing is they're achieving the results or more. They can scale their results. And the third thing is that every leader is personally and professionally growing. It's an engaging, meaningful job that they have, and they're stretching, but not into that zone of panic and overwhelm. So the individual gets better, the team gets better together, and they have better results. And you can track all of those in your metrics when you're team coaching. I'll just give you one small example here. I just completed with a team that was a very operational team. They're in the weeds. They're really their next level down should have been in the weeds. And the next level down was the one really mowing the lawn. But no, they were down mowing the lawn every day. So when we asked them at the beginning of the team coaching, what 3 words describe your team now? They said fixers, doers, get it done, take care of the people. Okay, great, that's great. But these were strategic leaders. What they needed to do was to elevate their ability to work at a strategic level and delegate the work. But they were so busy being busy and firefighting, they never got to it. The end, now this was a year-long contract, 10 months. 3 words they said were strategic, innovative, and influential. Those results went to one level above to cabinet that next day. And let me tell you, the team I'm on, the team coaching team, could have worked for another 10 years, because the contrast of where they started and where they got to wasn't just in the words. You could feel it with this team. They were showing up differently. So tracking, where are we? Where do we need to be? Team coaching is one of the vehicles to help you get there. Okay, so my final line on here is that we invest a lot in what we call leadership development, but it is often leader development. We send single people to trainings. How do we collectively develop teams? So when you're having conversations with organizations and they want you to come in to just coach some individual leaders, ask them, how are they harvesting the learning from those leaders together? And how do those leaders learn to work better together across their functions? Because the issue is not ultimately even the individual leader's performance. That's part of it. The bigger issue is, how do we connect the disconnects between verticals, between departments, and even between organizations? Okay, we'll come a little bit more to the team training question and facilitation. Here's a scenario. So I want you to be thinking, do any of these scenarios resonate for you? And if so, how can you start thinking more systemically to make that shift from one-on-one to team? So here's a scenario. It's a new assignment, and the leaders knew they're a little overwhelmed. They have these 8 direct reports and a significant project to deliver on. They don't know how to manage the staff. One of their staff actually, interviewed for their job and didn't get it. One is older than them. One, they just, tends to do their own thing. They're trying to pull them in. So you can have all that complexity in a team. And the team only comes together when the team leader calls the meetings, and that leader is overwhelmed. They're canceling those meetings. Not an unfamiliar scenario. What do you do? What would you do? You could start asking some systemic questions. So first off, rather than tell me about the person who applied for the job or the person who you're a bit intimidated by because they've got more experience than you, tell me about the team as a whole that you're managing, the strengths and challenges collectively. How are you working with the diversity of this team? How could you draw on it differently? How do they draw on one another? And without being judgmental, help me understand the pattern of your work. How is it that before you got this job and even now, they only come together during meetings? That's the only time they work together. And how is it that that time is being canceled? And what's the impact on the organization as a result? Just let's understand what the significance is of how the work gets done right now and how it could be even better. So how do your folks connect with one another between meetings? How can we help them to draw on one another as well as it being all about you as the team leader? These are just some examples of how you start to think and help the leaders think systemically about the team and about their role. And from here, it can go to, and it's a lot for one leader to do. Team coaching is this, team coaching is an approach where we come in to help the whole team collectively form around what the challenges are and how they can get from today to tomorrow, how you can deliver on those goals together, that it's not all coming from you. So as a team coach, we get together with the whole team to plan and start to shift the patterns of how they work better together. Here's another one. maybe HR says, I've got 4 leaders in this senior team. They're dealing with these issues. And I said, you pick, because I hear these issues all the time. You pick which one fits for you. It might be, you know what, they're new. We want them to get better at leading teams. They've been leading projects. They're technical experts, but they need to know how to lead people. Okay, that's a nice assignment to go from manager to leader. Or you might get the complex ones. Oh my gosh, we're in the middle of expanded teams, restructures, mergers, acquisitions. I've got a team like this, downsizing. They don't know, but we're going to be letting go of this whole line of people coming up in a month. Significant change, conflict, complexity, HR issues. Not an HR issue that really the team leader and HR need to be addressing, but more, it's just like people seem disengaged. Presenteeism. They're here, but they're not really here. These are the kind of issues teams and organizations are facing today, and more. Feel free to add more to chat that you see. But I've added in this another layer. On top of those challenges, you have all these managers that got through COVID that are leading teams, or new people put in place, COVID and just beyond, that are overwhelmed and dealing with burnout, stress, strain, disengagement, and retention. They're going, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. I'm treading water as fast as I can. So there's an ask to you, and often HR thinks through help the individual leader. They don't think about the systemic issues in the organization that all the leaders are facing, that if they could work collectively, would have way more payoff than coaching for individual leaders. Now, you can do some individual coaching as part of team coaching, but there's a collective issue, a pattern that's systemic, that is going to be more powerful to address. So how do you work with the issues at a systemic level? So HR leader, I'm hearing, I'm going to ad lib here. I'm hearing that you've got 4 leaders that are struggling with the complexity of what's on your plate right now, that you've been asked to deliver a 30% increase in revenue in the next year. At the same time, you can't have any more staff. That sounds challenging. So what I'd like to suggest is that rather than just coaching those individual leaders, we coach your senior team to lead the organization around this. Because if they can come together and own not just their area, but everyone's area, if they can be the voice of this change and reassure, bring hope, and have a path that they all commit to, I believe, my offer to you is you will have way more success. Here's a third. It could be, I'm noticing a theme of needing to develop from managers to leaders. And, if you've got these folks who are managing the work and projects, but they don't quite know how to manage people. Very typical. So we want these leaders to instill healthy culture, engaging, collective capacity, but they don't know how to do it. So given all they need to develop, it makes sense to work with them together. Now, for those of you in the poll who said you do group, here's your space. This is a great space to bring in group coaching, because you can do a training and they can share and learn in a peer way about how do we do all these things like engaging people. So that's a nice place for group coaching, or a bit of training and some group coaching, or it can be team coaching as well. So again, how does the top layer or the team that's new learn to do this together? You're hearing me reinforce some points. Okay, what we like to do now is to do some breakouts. And I just invite you to think about those scenarios. You can take any one of them or your own. What issues are you hearing? So the scenarios, I put a few up, and again, you don't have to work with these, but you can. We can put these examples into chat if the ICF team could do that. It could be a new leader. How do I lead? It could be there's a bunch of leaders dealing with straightforward or really complex issues, maybe burnout. And it could be there's a theme of just shifting from manager to leader. How would you talk to HR or your client about a team solution rather than just a one-on-one? So that's what we're going to do. You'll have a breakout and you've got 1 minute to just describe the scenario. So nutshell it, make it brief. And the partner is going to practice asking anything that comes to mind that isn't just about the individual, it's about the whole, about the system, the team, or the organizational pattern. All right, enjoy, and we'll see you back in, you'll have a partner pair, so in about 10 minutes.
So we're going to open the breakout room soon. Nandini has, okay, start. So I'm just going to get this, so that everybody's clear. So what we heard Catherine say is that there were 3 scenarios that she shared. We could have this or any other. The partner have to ask systemic questions that will help.
Here are some examples, right? Like tell me about the team as a whole.
Yeah. So we'll just start thinking systemic is what's going to happen to us, right? Yeah. Okay, great. So all the best to everyone. We're going to create groups of 3, and so one person will share the situation, and the others will ask questions. So Nandini has began opening the rooms. We have lovely questions here. I think Sagarika is curating. Once we come back, you may also, during the debrief, we'll kind of, yeah.
Yes, what questions? I see team coaching and facilitation.
Yes. So people have asked the difference between team coaching, facilitation, and group coaching and team coaching.
Yeah, so I can take that on.
Yeah. Then there is, how is system coaching different from network coaching?
Sure.
And how do we pitch the team coaching when the client asks for a leadership development? The reason is, for us, there is not much awareness about the team coaching in the corporates. So how do you, in that scenario, how do you pitch for team coaching? How does contracting work in the team coaching? Then there is one clarifying question. I thought team coaching comes after individuals in the organization are enrolled and they see the benefit arising from coaching. Am I right?
Okay. Fantastic. So what will be good is when we do Q&A, just read the question out again. And
sure.
I mean, you can read it or you can ask the person to come on video, either way. Probably reading is faster.
Should we do it towards the end or should we do it post the debrief?
Well, let's do a debrief first and then take 2 questions on.
Okay.
The next section is a little bit more about contracting, and it'll answer some of them. But the question of what's the difference maybe between team facilitation and all of those would be a good one to take on now. And maybe does a team coaching come before or after? That's a good one. I think network coaching, I probably should tackle that now because I just added that in. That's it. And then I think the rest could be later.
Nandini, what's happening? We have a lot of people still here.
Some of them have not joined the room.
Okay.
And the ones who are alone, then I'm moving them to the other room with other people.
Okay.
There's 2 people in the waiting room.
Nandini is an expert. She will manage this.
You got it. You got it. Okay.
Yeah, there are quite a few people who have not joined.
They want to listen, but not do the breakouts. Yeah.
I like the term collective capacity. I think that's a new one. It's like
great. Yeah. How do you build collective capacity?
Yeah, that got me.
Got you thinking? Right.
Yes. One of the things that I really liked about your books are that they're they're crisp,
Chris.
Yeah, because they're not like fat books. They're like handy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And to be as small a book as possible. These books are like, each year they're like going like that. Yeah.
Oh. No, but both the books that I got. But both of them are the one that I have. They're short, like 200. So, and they're so quick, right? I mean, I can open a page and I've got something there.
Yeah.
I think
exactly. That's what we hoped for. I'm so glad, just enough to know how to do this and to start to standardize in the field. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got one more.
So when we come back, do you want them to come on mic or do you want them just to put into chat?
Let them come on mic. We
come
can
on mic?
People, yeah.
Yeah. How many people? Do we have just 30 people right now? Because if so, we could have everyone on camera. We'll be, if there's just 30, that's probably fine.
But no. We have got quite a few of them.
There's more?
We've got 110 people who have so far, a little over 110.
Oh, maybe the 32 is just the ones not in breakouts. Okay.
Yes.
Well, okay, so I'll let you guide that. You can state the question. You can bring them on however you wish. And we won't have slides up and we'll have a bit of a dialogue. And we're fine for time though. This is okay.
Oh, okay, great.
Good.
There was nobody in my room.
Oh. Come here. Nandini is going to put you there, help you.
You've been waiting on your own.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, you know what? You could just stay with us. There's just 3 minutes left. Tell us what comes up for you with these scenarios in your work.
So some of the questions that came in my mind were, what is the impact you want to see? And then there were some which you suggested, tell me about the team as a whole. What are some strengths and challenges? What is that the leader has to do working with team to deliver the impact? What is it the leader has to do working with the team to deliver the impact? And then, what are the, then it could be some of the questions that you suggested. Please tell me something about the team as a whole. What are some of the strengths as well as the challenges?
Lovely. Great. And tell me about your work. What do you do?
Mostly one-on-one and group. So that is the
what kind of group work do you do?
With startups.
Yes.
Typically, the leaders, they have less time to develop their people.
Yeah.
And it's a very fast-paced environment, and
agile startup.
Results are required yesterday, and especially on the leadership skill, working together, going higher together. That is not the area which they can focus. They focus on, and they don't have the time to focus on those things also.
No. That's great. So they bring you in as an expert in that domain, right? Yes. To support the team. Do you have the team leader there as part of the group coaching?
I've had sometimes yes and sometimes no. Both scenarios have been there.
Yeah.
And also sometimes I would get a group where they are the high potential people.
Yeah.
And the management sees a lot of potential in them, and they want to, develop them, and they interact with others a lot. They may not have the leadership title as yet, but the management sees, and they want to showcase this opportunity, is that they believe in them, and they're developing their talent for the future.
That's lovely. That's a great opportunity for group coaching. The question I would ask is how do each of those those high potential leaders, take what they've learned back to the teams they're on and the teams they influence? Both. Because with a hypo, you want them to influence with peers, but you also want them to influence up and not wait for that leadership position. It's like, how are you making a difference now? And the third level is, what can you do collectively that you can't do alone? Even if you're not an intact team, even if you're a group of hypos.
Mhm.
I'm just writing it down.
Yeah, thank you for that scenario. And then it's an interesting one, though, when you have the team leader there some of the times and not. So how to thread that in? Yeah.
And it's an, interesting dynamic. Should the leader be there as a participant or the leader not speak?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I always say I want the leader there. And
Yeah.
some of the times you won't be, and we'll continue the work, but the leader needs to own the leader's not 100% responsible, but they have a role, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they delegate their role to the team coach versus actually lead the team.
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're very welcome.
So I will just go out of sharing slides right now as you all come back. Did you have a good conversation? Thumbs up. Yeah, good. That would be sort of. You're probably not going to say that.
Can you
Yeah,
hear
good.
me?
Yeah, good conversations. Yeah.
Wonderful. This is a chance for us to see some of your dear colleagues and folks in this coaching community and share. If any of you had an insight or you were left with a question, we've got about 5-10 minutes right now for this dialogue. And then we'll go back and we're going to be talking more about the structure of team coaching, what you can actually do. We're also going to answer a couple of questions, but first, like in this space, yes, and I'm terrible at pronunciation. I'm going to say that right now. Santanu?
Shantanu.
Yeah,
How do you
got
say
it.
your name?
Yeah, you got it right. And thanks, Catherine, for the very wonderful presentation here. So one of the things that we were discussing in our cohort is how to make the pitch to the client or the HR
Yes.
in terms of, from facilitation to, team engagement, right? So what is it? Of course, we did deliberate on the fact that this may be helpful in certain situations, but we've all been more used to a milieu of, one-on-one, coaching. And one of the thoughts that we also came up with is that at least in certain situations, team coaching may be a way of democratizing coaching, right? Because in organizations, we typically hear that coaching is reserved for the senior leadership, right? At the C-suite, etc., right? Especially in India. So this may be a way of, getting more people engaged in the coaching culture and building a coaching culture in organizations.
Exactly. Well, you've just made many of the points already. I'll just build on that, which is to say, I seldom pitch. I'm trying to co-create a path with that HR leader. And that might sound a little jargony, but it's really about building relationship and showing that you can support the team to address and have success around their team, around their challenges, right? So a first question I might say is, tell me what you're seeing that had you call me. If they're calling me, tell me what you're seeing that's working and not working. You're getting them to talk about it and have a space and do all of what all of you know how to do, 100% of you do, is that coaching conversation. Tell me about that. What have you tried? What have you thought of? What would better look like? How would we know your team got there? What's good, but what would be great? So I'm having those conversations, but I'm really thinking about building relationship and addressing the business challenges in that conversation. And there's other ways to so-called pitch or talk about it, which is, you know, here's a saying, why buy ROI? Why, which is tell me what you're seeing. What are the issues? What's keeping you up at night, right? As a leader, as an HR director. What do we need to address? It's why. By, this is what I've done with other organizations. And all of you, even if you haven't, you could say, this is what we know works in other organizations. You can use the collective we. Okay, you can use my stories anytime you like. And then why by ROI, and this is the difference it makes. So, for instance, I hear that you're struggling with retention and you're in this exhausting cycle of recruiting and hiring, and people are not staying that long. And so you're wondering about your culture and how to shift that. And so you're asking me to coach, you know, your top leader to address that issue. My concern is the risk of coaching one person who could also leave. My concern is how do we actually start to shift the culture here? I propose something that's not going to, it will require time and some organization, but let's create some sustainable results for you. Let's start to shift so that what are the words you want to be saying about this organization? What do you want people to say about why they work here in a year's time? In the US, where I do a fair amount of work, the net promoter score is really huge. It's like, would you refer people to this organization? Would you want a friend to work here? It's like, what would they be saying that they actually get their friends to come here too? Okay, so what's the shift in behaviors you need from these leaders to start to create that? Team coaching can help shift the habits and ways of being of your leaders to create that new culture. Because we need to take time to focus on how we're showing up, time to reflect, and time to redirect the course of what they're doing day to day. And we're not talking about half their day. We're talking about small changes like they walk the halls in the morning, but every team is committed to doing that. Or they say hi on Teams, you know, to their folks. But your team will create the plan together. We just need a space for them to come together and talk about it. And then, you know, like rowing a boat, they're going to row together in that direction. Okay, so rather than you're pitching, but even more, you're listening for what are the challenges they're facing and talking about how team coaching can help, where it's been done. And yes, you're democratizing coaching. The team is the client, though. The team as a whole is your client. You're helping that team to function more than any individual part. Okay, let's take another question. Thank you. That was a great question. Actually, one more piece, and then I'll go to the next one. Team facilitation. They're like, okay, well, why don't you come in for half a day and do something on how to work better together? Maybe it's, something like that. It's like, I absolutely can do that. And that might be part of what we do. What I'm going to propose, though, is that we also follow up with a few more sessions. Because the research shows everyone's going to feel great on the day we do that workshop. We're going to get 10 out of 10 if we're lucky on those scores. Then they go back to their desk, which now has a bigger pile of paper, and they get inundated and they forget it all. So there's a huge degradation of results. Those results go down very quickly once you leave the workshop. What I propose instead is this. Let's ... Let's do a workshop, then let's follow up to make sure we embed the changes. I'll come back to that. Okay, one more question. Great. Amlesh, am I saying your name right?
Yeah, yes, thank you. So what we discussed is that, the fundamentals remain the same in individual or team coaching. It's
Yes.
the potential and the answers which are lying within, whether it is an individual, group, or team.
Yes.
That's what that we need to get to the surface for the benefit of the organization. Now,
Exactly.
in case of group and team coaching, of course, more open the question and more listening that we do, we will pick up what they really want to move forward to. What outcomes, then you ask question, what outcomes are you looking at? What opportunities you want to harness from this intervention, and so on and so forth. And somewhere team coaching lies between individual coaching and facilitation. So bringing in those facilitation skills, stepping back, asking questions, stepping back, being in the room yet not being in the room, those are the things which help us. And of course, at the pitching stage, it need to be a really longer and repeated conversations to
Exactly.
not only arrive at the appropriate outcome, but also design the whole program in such a way that it is fruitful. And there it may be team coaching plus some individual interactions as well. You never know. So
You're describing it very well. It is very much about empowering the team. My friend and mentor Peter Hawkins would say, I don't have the answer, and I'm hearing you haven't figured out the answer yet, but together with the team we can get there. Right? So you don't have a totally blank paper. You're not just listening. It's not just pure coaching, but you're also not telling them what to do. You're partnering, you're coming alongside. You do have some examples from your coaching, team coaching, or others of how you might do that. You are helping them to create the roadmap, but ultimately they own it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, facilitation is you're helping with the process, but you usually are not responsible for the business results. You're creating the space, you're making sure everyone's heard, you're maybe you're tracking time, that's facilitation. Training, you're bringing in a topic, right? That maybe with some content or leadership development. Team coaching, it might have those components, it do have those components in it, but it's also tracking where they are, where they need to get to, and some specific ways to get there. You're opening up a different kind of conversation. Let me show you an example of that with just the model. And then we'll come back to a couple of questions at the end if we've got time. Thank you for those questions. They were probably helpful for everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so here we go. We're going to go back into a little bit more. How do you do this? So those are just some of the first scenarios, and you'll have your own. How do you work with the team? So in those four downline leaders, as I noted, it's fine to have a workshop as part of it. I did a team coaching contract for 3 months this summer in Canada. And it was a medical team that was in conflict around different standards of how they worked with their equipment, worked with one another. I used DISC, which is a style assessment. I'll show you in a moment. And I don't use it all the time, but I thought this is probably perfect for them because they're personalizing the conflict. They think it's about her and him and them. It's not. They're just holding different roles on the team. One person's got, kind of waving the flag on quality, and one is saying, we got to get people through the door and not spend so much. They're just holding different roles on the team that are disconnected because you need both of them. But they were thinking it's about the other person. If only she would do it differently. So looking at styles, you help to go, oh, this person is just so about quality. They're so analytical. And this is such a people person. It was a nice way to depersonalize it. Other examples of workshops that I use, and I've got probably another 5. I might do values. I've got strength-based tools. I'm the North American lead for resilience at work. So I do think about people taking care of themselves and what it takes to be resilient and well, not just perform. I do network analysis, which is looking at who's in your network. Who do you need to be connected to beyond who you typically connect with and think you need to be connected with. So I have a tool for that. I'm a master trainer in conflict dynamics. You don't have to be master trainers in all these to use them. There's free tools and there's I'm going dark. And there's other tools to that you can use. That was interesting lighting. And leadership map, just any kind of 360s or ways to assess leadership competencies. There's all kinds. I suggest for starting coaches or coaches moving into this space, pick one. Pick one. And sometimes you just pick it because that team needs that. So now you quickly train up in it and now you've got it. Some of them you don't have to train in. They're just readily accessible. On the note, when I said team and network coaching, I meant you're coaching teams of teams. It's like you're coaching across an organization. So for instance, I'm working with some nurses and I'm working with finance folks, and they tend to work separately, but there's problems they both need to own. So we're bringing those teams together. That's network coaching. That was one of the questions. Okay, just as an example, I just want to, this was more just to illustrate the point of workshops. This is my individual resilience tool. You know, I look for evidence-based ones, this one is, and there's lots of components to resilience that you can work with if that's the topic or one of the topics you're bringing in. And again, it doesn't have to be this tool. You can create your own. This is DISC. In this, for those of you who know DISC, there's lots of versions of it that aren't called DISC, but it was based on Winston Marston, I think, and a long time ago, the 40s, who said there's these different styles of folks. Some are more get it done, be brief, be bold, be gone. Your D's, your analytical, make it perfect, make it really, really good. Your S's, harmony. What about the people? Let's get those admin details right. And I is let's have some excitement and creative innovation. Well, this team, this is the medical team, had nothing in get it done. And a little bit in the analytical, there's the person who's saying we need to make sure the equipment is sterilized, was kind of up here. And a lot of people in just in the admin and a little bit of let's think about, you know, how we're innovative and engaging with people. This is a very short example and I could do a whole training on it, but it showed the team what they were missing. It also showed where the quality person and the people person were the farthest away on the map. They simply had different strengths and styles. And it opened up conversation. And then we moved on to other things, which is what was the structure and the leadership they needed to make the decisions when they were in conflict. Okay, now I might be giving you a lot here. Let's just look at this. Okay, this was the ask again. Coach 4 leaders. They're dealing with these issues, right? Whatever those issues were, I remember it was you pick. Here's what I might propose for team coaching. What I suggest is rather than coach your 4 leaders separately, a more economical and effective way will be to coach them as a senior team with some individual coaching. But let's not put all the resources there because they have to collectively manage these issues. So what I propose is I would first come to your team and do an orientation on what is team coaching. Team coaching is working with teams where they have intersecting problems to which they are mutually accountable for, intersecting goals and challenges that they are collectively responsible for. So we're going to work with your team and talk about team coaching. So how do they collectively own those issues, not just for today, but start to be future fit? What's coming on the horizon? And how do they need to pivot for that? Your surveys, interviews, assessments. I might do like a style assessment. I just showed you that, maybe. Resilience. I might pick one, I might not. Depends on the budget. Depends on what that organization is challenged with that in terms of what I'll design. You might do a team effectiveness survey. I have some I make them up, sometimes based for the team, and there's ones you can train in. Sometimes it's just, you know, what's one thing you need to start, stop, continue, and rate your team on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you need, and what will take you closer to 10? You can do very simple baseline assessments. I usually interview folks individually to get their perspective and build psychological safety. Then with this data, I pull them together for an offsite, onsite, some version of time we've set aside. For me, it's a minimum of a day. Lots of coaches do half days though. It's just, you've got to get enough momentum with the team. I like 2 days. And I've done 3 if I can get it, but it's usually 2 these days. There's some individual planning. I want every leader to be, or every person on that team to be engaged around what matters to them, to think about where are they going to grow that'll matter to them and the team. So build an individual commitments, team agreements. What does the team need to keep top of mind in order to start to function differently? It might be something like, we need to not interrupt. Okay, so the team agreement is we give everyone space. Or speak your truth, but mind your wake. We want people to challenge, but we're not trying to undercut and have people go away feeling awful. The team should come up with 5 to 7 agreements. And in my research, my doctoral research showed this was incredibly important. And then you keep working with it in follow-up meetings. And then we would review and go further. So this is just what I've got down here as a phase 1. Phase 2, so we've got going, just to back up again, orientation, collect some data. We get together and the team gets to review the data around where they need to go with that, plus some individual engagement, some agreements, and some sort of plan of what we're going to focus on, where we're going to go. Then we keep going with it. There's more offsites, set aside days based on the roadmap we've created, and space to pause and talk about what we're learning. Now, I've just given you a lot. My book, my very small book, is a very quick guide to all of this, and this is just a webinar, so let me show you a bit more. Sometimes it's helpful with a visual. Now, this was 2013, but this is a really good foundation for moving into team coaching. You heard me talk about assessment. Then coaching for team design is like, what will it look like? Is there something we need to get ready first? Like, someone's on mat leave. She's coming back in 3 months. Let's wait. Or, there's someone you really haven't been performance managing. That should happen before the team coaching. Team coaching is not a solution for that. I described the launch, keeping individual engagement going, maybe some individual coaching, the ongoing sessions, and time to review, learn, and go forward. Now, there's a lot more in this cycle, but let's just leave it there for now. This is a more complex model. This is, I also teach a lot in the systemic team coaching space. This is where you really bring in the ecosystem partners, also called stakeholders, to help you think about the purpose of the team and to give feedback. But just know there are other models out there, and most of them do the same thing in some level, which is they're working with the teams around their tasks, what they need to do and get done, and their process. How do they work together? The how and the what, working inside the team. And then this model works even more with the outside. Now, my model also includes stakeholder engagement or ecosystem partners, which is what I like to call it. So here we go. Let's do a little bit more on this. Are you a group or are you a team? This is a helpful tool. It's in my book. Because if you're working with a group, it's sort of like they put all these people together to report to someone, but they don't have anything they're mutually accountable for. And they'll often feel quite resentful that they're having to do team coaching because they're so busy. And why are we doing this? Why do we have to work as a team? We don't work, our work doesn't go together. I'm HR and you're marketing. You could see those working together, but in some organizations, they don't. A team is a relatively small group of people who share common goals and responsibility for achieving them, and they share the rewards. It can be more than 12, for sure. I've worked with clinical teams that have 20. When you get to that number, it's really hard to make decisions. So they're no longer a decision-making team. And therefore, are they really a functional team? you're going to get, you'll get the slides after. Just to note that in this deck, I also put together some questions you might ask, you might pick from if you're doing interviews. For instance, what does your team need to be doing to be successful a year from now? Or on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate their overall effectiveness? There's lots of questions, and this is probably more than you want. I would like 7 to 10. I think I tried to keep it to 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 10. Yeah, no more than 10, because you want to engage in the dialogue too. You want, you know, just like coaching, there's a question and the answer, and then there's more to explore. Go 3 levels if you can, because you'll get to what they haven't shared, but needs to be surfaced somewhere. There's ways to ensure that it's confidential, and you pull the, you know, pull that data together for the team to look at. The team reviews it and says, where are we strong? Where are we challenged? And where do we need to go? What are our opportunities? They figure out what the themes are. And based on that, you get some areas you'll address in team coaching. Some of it within the coaching, some they take and they do in between your sessions. So that's the launch, where you're exploring all that and you're building psych safety, and you can do different things as well as look at that interview data. That's just about the launch. You're doing a roadmap. So if they've got their priorities, then you're figuring out, what does it look like? Here's an example. So this is a team that mapped. This was his first offsite. It's a couple of years ago. I then came and did business as usual meetings. And what that means is I sat in on their regular work meetings and helped coach to those team agreements and help them to be more effective live as they're working. So when you train in team coaching, you learn a little bit more about how to do that, but it's really important to not just talk about the work. You want to work with them in their work. You want to be on the balcony and the dance floor. Added in some one-on-one. Now this was not a lot of one-on-one, but I wanted to check how they were doing with the team coaching and how they were working on their own goals that they set at the launch. This had a second offsite, a third, and a final. You can see the time. This was actually about almost a year, about 10 months from beginning to end. Plus there would have been a little bit of scoping, of figuring out the assignment before the launch. So really it was a year. Okay, so map that with the team, and then you can go further if you want. What are some of the topics we're going to cover that they said they need to get better on? For instance, we want to work on how do we address conflict, because we don't. Here's one. Okay, so there might be some ongoing individual and leader sessions. I'm working with the leader to help plan the team coaching and to be embedding the changes throughout the contract. So strategy sessions, team coaching. And this is just, you know, often teams are wanting, you know, the strategic, where are we going? Where do we need to go? They sometimes, teams are great at this, and sometimes they don't take the time to go, where are we and where do we need to get to? And what's our unique winning aspiration? Where we'll play? What management systems and processes and capabilities will support that? I also will bring in other examples based on the team, because we often get caught in, as I mentioned with the medical story, of interpersonal things. We think it's about the person, but sometimes there were unclear processes, communication, decision-making. There was really absent leadership in that team I spoke of. No one said, here's the standards. It was unclear roles and responsibilities, who actually decided things. And ultimately, goals and purpose. They were clear here, but they were unclear at these structural levels of procedures and roles. This is a model called GRPI. You can look it up online. It's very helpful to help people see issues may not be personal, they might be structural. And the teams can start to build more effective communication, meeting, decision-making, conflict management processes, and get clear what they uniquely can do and what others could be doing instead. Delegation. So I talked about business as usual a bit. I go in and I do some live coaching, give feedback, strengths, and opportunities. just not a ton of feedback, but enough that they can pivot, or I'm bringing in something from the launch to the business as usual. So here's a model for that: to observe, offer strengths, add in, and even better if would be, I might say, let's just take a pause in the middle. Could everyone say one thing going well, one thing they'd like to change? That's called the huddle, and then they keep going. So lots here you can bring in and you can learn, but we want to make sure you're learning all along, but then take time to harvest the learning at the end. How will they take what they've learned in the team coaching and own it now and keep it going and take it to their downlines and have that learning benefit more than just the team you coached? So there's a review. You might hopefully have set some metrics at the beginning. Maybe there was that survey on team effectiveness. You do it again. Maybe you had your interviews at the beginning with scaling questions. How effective are you, 1 to 10? You do it again. 3 words now, 3 words in the future. Now what they say when you get to that future point. So it's helpful to have some metrics to show progress. Okay. So let's just do a 7-minute breakout right now, just for a quick one. And it's where might I use this and how? So 7 minutes just to go, that was a lot. Here's one thing or one place I might start to use this and how. You'll have about 3.5 minutes each. And then we'll come back and spend some time hearing about that and answering some more questions.
There's something that's coming up, Catherine. Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
So all these team coaching work that you shared, for instance, with us right now, did you do it by yourself, or did you have a co-facilitator, a co-coach who also delivered along with you through and through?
The medical team, I try and do, it depends on the contract. About 1/3 of my work, or 1/3 to half, is just me. And then I'm often working as a senior coach with others that are internal or have brought me in because I have methodology, and I'm co-coaching. And some of my work is actually 3 coaches, but 2's enough. So the one where I talked about the nurses and finance, I've got 2 coaches. Yeah, that's 2 coaches for sure. That's complex. And the medical, just me. The others, about half and half.
So the thing is, so for instance, you have a 12-member team, right? And you're also suggesting some one-on-one. So you would do all the one-on-ones yourself?
Well, if I had 2 coaches, then we might split that up. Or I mean, this gets complex. I also say, for instance, I worked with a senior nursing team, 2 coaches in the room. I also supervised 4 coaches who did all the coaching, the one-on-one. So I had some, and then I met with them and supervised them, and we threaded back and forth between the team and the individual. But, you know, here's the thing. When coaches are first starting team coaching, an effective model is to give each of the members 3 sessions. There's an interview, there's a check-in, kind of how's it going, and there's a closeout session, 3 or 4. And then you know, depending on the size of the team, that's doable for a single coach or 2 coaches. A very large team, 1 person, there's no way you can do more than that. Yeah. So it's in the design, it's also in the budget, because some organizations will say we can't afford 2 coaches. Now what are you going to do? So hence my model of coach, it's more like checking in service of the team and the team coaching, that individual piece, 3 or 4 times. That's a doable model.
So Catherine, even I have a question. So is there an ideal size of the team that you would for team coaching? Would you take, for example, in training to be effective, 20 or not more than 25 is the ideal size, right? Like you mentioned that.
6 is lovely. Richard Hackman said 6 is the perfect size of a team. But no, you know, if you're learning, I'd say 8 and under. But it depends on your skill. If you've got really good facilitation skills, you might be good with 8 to 10. But as a, decision-making teams need to be typically 14 or 12 and under. Anything more than that, and it's complex. You want someone else in there with you.
Like you mentioned that some of the organizations, they do not want more than one coach, maybe the budget doesn't permit.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, what would be the ideal size that you would look at coaching the team?
I'll tell you, just as an aside, increasingly, I find, depending on the size of the organization, someone who will project manage internally. They're tracking the notes, doing the scheduling, they're doing the rescheduling, they are tracking even some of the action items. So increasingly I do that, but I didn't want to make it too complex here. The ideal team in the organization to start with, 6 to 8 if you're starting. But it's always and if it's a reasonably high functioning team, or you've got a really great leader who really comes alongside you and they get it, that can stretch your numbers.
Why I'm asking you this question is because in your entire intervention, there are 3 one-to-one check-ins.
That was a model, but know that I've got assignments where I've done 12 individual sessions with my co-coach. I've got a co-coach and me, and there's 10 team members, and I have done 12 sessions for 6 of those people. Really big contracts. Yeah.
Actually, that's the thing, right? I mean, then how do you stretch yourself? Because at the time, how many projects can you really take up then?
Yeah. You don't want when you're first starting, 2 or 3 team coaching projects and I'd say 2 is as much as you want. In the world of team coaches, most of them are almost none of them are doing more than 5 or 6. I will have 8 sometimes, but really 2, and then balancing with individual work, individual or group or something else, a couple of teams. I say 2 because just 1, sometimes it doesn't give you enough momentum and learning and but not, you don't want to, just to go, I'm going to just be a team coach. Yeah. Because they cancel and it takes a lot of work, and so balance it out with individual. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because bandwidth is another thing, right? So one is have to be aware of how much can you really take on while I'm excited.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. Yeah. I have a group that I have 2 virtual teams, and I'm coming up now to my 2025 contracts, and I'll have 3 teams. So I'll have 5 in total in the next year. And 2 I'm doing on my own, 3 I'm doing with some co-coaches and someone else managing contracts and doing a fair amount of I'll do design, but they'll do a lot of the admin. And that's
because that also takes a lot of your time and bandwidth in that sense. So to making sure that everybody's calendar matching itself is like 10 people matching a calendar itself is like so much of stress.
So get someone inside who takes that job on.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's part of the contract. Yeah. And then commitments, like we're going to hold this time because it matters. This is not a nice objective you've got. It matters. It's a strategic imperative to focus the time. And you'll want to cancel it, but don't, because people will be on holidays, but the work doesn't go on holiday, right? So I'm going to hold in service of you what your work's meant to be, even when you start to do what you normally do, which is you're going to want to cancel. Yeah. Welcome back.
Yeah. People are coming back.
Maybe you could talk about the conversation we just had, and then we'll open it up for comments and questions. How would that be? Can the 2 of you share what we were talking about?
Certainly.
Okay.
So, for the benefit of everybody in the room and time also, actually, we got 10 minutes to go. So I'm going to quickly share the short conversation that Catherine and I had, which was about whether to do this entire program by yourself or should we enroll or enlist a co-coach along to execute the project. And what I heard her say that at a time you can maximum do 2, especially when you're starting out, because then you'll have enough learning experience and along with your other one-on-one work. So that's what really, and because we are an emerging market, and I think this is where we are getting 1 assignment and 2 assignment is max. I don't think most of us are in that space where we're getting 5 or 8 in that sense. So yeah, so I think that's what it is. So if it's a large group, 10, 12, it is good to have a co-coach along, is my key takeaway from this.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay.
So I think let's just start, open up the room for
questions.
and something. Yeah.
So you may or may not get a year-long contract here for team coaching, but to embed change, you want a minimum of 6 months. But I will agree, particularly in emerging market, and certainly 10 years ago for me, if it was 3 months, it included maybe a workshop and some follow-up so that they embedded that learning and maybe did some strategic planning together. Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. You become a partner to that organization, and then they want to bring you back. And so you can continue to do more. Any thoughts?
So
breakouts or questions? Rajesh? We can't see your picture, but
okay. Catherine, thanks for the insightful talk. I would like to know which book have you written, and will that help in understanding team or group coaching in a better way?
Yes, I can show you. Just a moment here. There's 2 books that I've written that here's the pictures. This one right here, High Performance Team Coaching, I wrote with my doctorate partner, Jacqueline. It will go through the model you saw today, and it's a quick read, and it's very practical. 50 Tips for Terrific Teams is just kind of a fun one on team effectiveness that gives you some other things to think about.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And, I do encourage you to attend trainings as well, just because it can be, and supervision. It's helpful because it is a complex area. Yeah. So I see the date of session being screen shared and someone filling that in. Other questions? Sereni's screen, I think we're seeing it right now. Are you wanting to talk about?
Yeah, should we talk about the questions that have come?
Yes.
There's quite a few questions that have come. I think.
Could you take down the screen sharing that you're doing right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just take the. I don't know how that.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
So very interesting question. First of all, thank you so much, Catherine, for this insightful and really enriching session. I've just bought your book and I'm eager to start reading it. So the first question that has come up is the difference between team and facilitation. While you have answered it briefly, would you like to still touch upon it? This is from Rajesh Tharak.
Sure. Facilitation is when you're asked to hold the space for a group that's doing their work. It tends to cross over with training as well, which is, could you come facilitate our planning session? You're managing the process, but you're not really helping ongoingly with them. And team coaching is when you're working with them over time. It's more of a journey, and it includes your facilitation skills, but you are empowering and supporting them to focus on some business results, and you're part of that planning process.
So the second question is, how is system coaching different from network coaching? This is asked by Sunita Sinha. While you've answered it briefly, but would you like to share more?
Sure. Network is, you've been working in an organization for a while, and it's like, well, you coach this team and that team, and how do we create a coaching culture across the organization? What can we do at a network level to increase our organizational capacity as well as our team capacity? And so my example was, say, working with a nursing team and finance team, and I brought them together to deal with what we call the wicked problems of today.
Thank you. The third question is, how do we pitch in team coaching when the client asks is for leadership development? The reason I ask is there is not much awareness about team coaching as yet in the corporates, asked by Ajit Bedekar.
Sure. So, pitching, that's where I'm like saying, become a partner, build a relationship, and really listen to what their challenges are and talk about how team coaching can support those challenges. So I hear that you have a bunch of new leaders in roles and you want them to be equipped quickly to lead. We could do one-on-one, but what I'd like to suggest instead, because they're on the same team and they're your team, let's get them together because they're going to learn even faster together than through the individual. And let's think about what that learning is in service of. So we will help them to really apply their learning together. And I'm going to propose 6 months, and we can figure out what time will work with your calendars so that we create that dedicated time. Most leaders do not spend enough time thinking strategically. And while they get short-term results, they're not playing the long game. I want to support you to do that. There's an example.
Thank you. The other question is, how does contracting work in team coaching? Renu Tandon.
How does contracting work? So contracting, you are, that's a bigger question, but sometimes you might do a phase 1, phase 2, which I showed. So phase 1 is to orient the team to team coaching, collect some data, and help the team review it to come up with a plan. Phase 2 is the execution on that plan, getting together with the team in their regular business meetings and some time set aside for team coaching and learning and review at the end.
I can see Raja raising his hand. Raja, would you like to share your question? And thereafter, I'll share the other questions.
Thank you.
Raja, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
And there is a screen sharing by Srinivasan Subramaniam. Could you please remove that? Yeah.
Okay, so my question is about when you're new, trying to enter the team coaching world, how do you pivot and sell it to companies and organizations who haven't had it before, and for them to entrust you while you're learning the ropes, as we say? And part 2 would be around, you have one-to-one coaching, you do interviews. How do you then take those challenges and the things that was shared and balance the confidentiality with what needs to be shared across the team for an agreement?
Okay, let me take the second one and then the first, and I can stay on a few more minutes for anyone who can stay. Happy to answer more questions if you wish. The second one, the confidentiality. If I have a team that's like 4 or 5 people, I'm probably going to do the interviews for my knowing, but I may not bring that data back because it's too identifiable, right? 3 or 4 people, I know who said what, right? But with the right number, I'm going to roll up the comments under the questions, such as, where are you strong? What are your challenges? What's the one thing we most need to focus on team coaching? If you could scale your effectiveness 1 to 10, where would it be? Where does it need to be? I could keep going with those questions. Then I'm going to roll up the answers and give it back to the team. I'll take out identifiers, like if they put their name in or the team leader's name in, and they review it and they decide what the themes are that are standing out collectively and what they want to do with it. So I will tell the team ahead that it is aggregated. I will take the data and aggregate it. I pull it together and ensure that no individual's name is in there. So their comments will be shared, and together you will decide what matters most. In the interview itself, I will say, if there's something you want to tell me you don't want going to the team, please let me know, and it won't. Okay? So the first part, if you're just coming into this and trying to add this, and how do you talk to organizations about it? your first most powerful tool is to start helping them think systemically. That first part we did. That's your bridge. So given it's a systems issue, I suggest we work with the system, your team. Okay? If you're thinking systemically about how can we use all the strengths on this team to tackle this new market, there's going to be some amazing potential if we can do that together. So what I propose is a methodology that's being used that's very effective, which is we'll set aside some time to collect a bit of data, to get together and talk about what you most need to do to get to that market. And then I'll coach you in some of your regular team meetings to ensure you're being even more effective in how you perform together. And we'll meet a couple more times. How does that sound? Yes, that's good. I was supervising someone yesterday. She proposed this in an education sector, and they said, great, come back, bottom line, give me the numbers, we'll figure it out. Because they liked the idea, the concept. So you might start with a proposal without the numbers, without what it's going to cost, get some agreement in principle, and then move to budget.
So the next question is, this is more of a clarifying question. I thought team coaching comes after individuals in the organizations are enrolled and they see the benefit arising from the coaching. Am I right? I hear Subramaniam.
Sometimes it starts with individual, and so they're warming up to coaching, and then you can go, here's a next tier, something else we can do together, but not always. Sometimes there's different paths in. I'll get asked to come do a workshop on resilience at work. And I say, I could do that workshop, and tell me about the issues you're facing. And is a workshop going to address them? If not, can we talk about what might be a more robust solution that includes a workshop, given the time and the budget you have? Okay, so it might come in differently. I haven't done any individual coaching with them. I'm just speaking of someone that I got asked last week. I'm on their roster for individual, but this came from their OD department directly around a workshop, and then I was helping them expand.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, there are two more questions quickly.
Can I ask one question since I'm not able to raise hand?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, hi. So thank you so much for the wonderful session. My question is that since when we are more into one-on-one coaching, since I've been doing a lot of one-on-one coaching only, and we know that in our one-on-one coaching, we focus on one person. We focus on our client. We work on the inner knowingness. We work on the limiting belief system, and that's the whole thing, right? Now, how do we do that in the team setup? So that is something.
Yeah, I like the question, Shalini. Sometimes you're doing some individual pieces that they then share, similar to a workshop. So I might talk about limiting beliefs and maybe guide people through like Hargrove's ladder of inference. I don't know if you know that tool. What's happening and what are the assumptions underneath it? And maybe there's 3 questions that they ask themselves, like what's happening? What do I have to believe to be true in order to believe that? Some series. And then they write it, they journal about it, then they share with a partner, then whoever wishes to share back to the group. And then so you can do individual within the team. You can also notice what we call shared mental models, teams' limiting beliefs, what they clearly assume that is implicit, not explicit, and start to surface that. Could there be an assumption here, right? About, it could be bias, could be an assumption that we need to put forward a man to go to that meeting. Is there an assumption around, who needs to present? Does it need to be the leader? Could it be a team member? You're listening for their implicit beliefs and checking what, beliefs and assumptions. So you can also work those kind of concepts from the top and then go down, or the down and go out. I'm always wanting to engage the individual as well as the team as a whole, though. Yeah.
Can I share the next question?
Yes.
Huge challenge in IT industry and is getting key teams together, deploying at different time zones and at different client location and different needs. Any scenario you can address, please share. Dr. L.S. Murthy.
Global teams. Yeah. Ideally, you get them together once or twice a year, first off, right? Because it is challenging to do asynchronous work. I will work in smaller time intervals, like 2 hours, you know, it's hard to do the entire world. It really is, at least in my time zone. But I can work in the morning and I can work at night and get enough of those folks together. You're also doing some recordings, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge. But if there is a resource to bring them together once or twice a year, that's super helpful. Yeah.
The next question is, what is the criteria for doing a diagnostic and how to take decisions on where to begin? Sunita Sinha.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
What is the criteria for doing a diagnostic survey and how to take decision of where to begin?
Okay. There's a few considerations for this. How and when do you use a diagnostic tool? Early on is often very powerful because it gives a team an opportunity right off the bat to reflect differently on what their strengths are and how they're using them. I would never do more than 2 assessments at any given time, because then it just becomes about the assessment. You're wanting them to have a different kind of conversation. And so the next consideration, though, is what are the challenges of the team that you already know from those initial scoping conversations that help you think about a diagnostic that you might want to bring in, and or not. The next consideration is budget. If I have a low budget team coaching contract, I might do no interviews. I might just do a survey with team effectiveness, right? And then I roll that up I used to work in government, right? And did team coaching, where I had to do team coaching contracts that were 2 days plus 15-minute interviews or a survey. That was it. So you learn to do a lot in less. So, and the 15-minute interview is because I'm like, I still want to interview these people. How about 15 minutes instead of an hour? It's possible it didn't create enough sustainability. They then shifted their model to something a little bit longer. But budget matters. It does. And time matters. It is actually, those are the 2 largest constraints organizations face. And if you look at the payoff of team coaching, the dividends they will make by setting aside the time and budget for it is usually quite profound. But you have to sometimes create the argument for the time wasted. You know, they're already wasting time spinning their wheels, going off, you know, they bring up the same topic week after week in meetings. How about we help you to be effective in your meetings so that you have a different result? How valuable would that be to you if we can get it right through the team coaching? What do you think would be the payoff from that? That's one example, but you can help them to see how investing some time and budget is going to help them in the long run and the short run. It is about working better together. You just not get caught in just being about team dynamics. You are going to address that for sure, but it's also in service of business results.
So this is more of a clarifying question. Is it okay for team coach to also coach the team leader, Srini?
Yeah, it is. You might call those the strategic planning team coaching sessions. You have to have a contract around what is shared with the team and what is not. And the team needs to know that you are coaching that team leader. Now, if there's a toxic relationship of some sort, a challenging relationship between the team leader and the team, then I suggest you bring in a team coach, because you're going to look like just another tool of the team leaders and not make it too far. unless you are very skillful, right? You have to be very skillful in that scenario. I've done it. It's doable. It's tricky.
Okay, one last question. How do we monitor individual coaches' development in a team coaching process? Anita Bandopadhyay.
Individual coaches or individual team members?
Individual. So, how do you monitor individual coaches' development
Coaches
in a team
development.
coaching process?
Coaches development. So team members, individual team members development.
Okay, individual team members. Yeah. That's a great question. Sometimes, you know, well, if that matters, which I think it should, at the beginning, they're setting some personal goals for what they hope to work on in the team coaching. And you're helping them to think about, as I said earlier, the shift in them that helps create, that they're motivated around, they're excited about, that will also create a shift in the team or fits with their collective goals. Now, how do you monitor that? You check back in with them. And there's a thread all the way through your team coaching around individual development, all the way from the beginning, all the way to the end. And it goes this way from beginning to end. It also goes this way from individual to team, 2 dimensions. At any given time, you're doing that. So I will give team members journals at the beginning, for instance, and some questions that they're tracking for themselves and noticing their own insights and progress. I do a lot of pair share because I also think we've got introverts and extroverts. Time to reflect, time to share on where am I growing, or where was I challenged, or where did I try what we've been talking about out. So they're reflecting in the team coaching sessions and hopefully outside of it as well.
Yeah, that was the last question.
All the way through.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Thank you so much, Catherine. For
Really.
answering.
Thank you so much. Really. Thank you, Sagarika. Thank you, Catherine. I think the time falls short and there's so much to really take from your experience, your knowledge, your wisdom. And we're very grateful and privileged for this time that we have.
Thank you. Likewise. Likewise. What a delight to come hang out with you. And I can feel how keen everyone is to learn and absorb and to do this good work.
We have to do a group picture before we really get going. Yes, please, because a lot of people had to leave because we had said 7:30, and they've been telling, I mean, that the share that you've seen on the chat box here, which says that it's been an awesome. I mean, a lot of wow comments, and I'm going to read it out a little later. But let's do a group picture.
Sure, and you've got the birthday one too, so you'll have a bigger group.
Yes.
Is she there? Yeah.
Request everybody to please put your cameras on and let's do a lovely group picture. This is for our social media as well. Yeah, happy birthday to you once again.
Thank you.
One more?
One more. Please hold on.
Say, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're such a kind, loving group. So nice.
Yeah. Yes. There you go. That's for you.
Thanks very much.
Done.
This has been a really
Thank you
great
so
session.
much, everyone.
Yeah.
Lovely session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, let us.
Thank you,
thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
Really nice. Very insightful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you,
yeah,
Anita.
this is
I
in
loved your
1.5
comment.
hours.
Coach the connections.
Coach the connections. That's right.
Yeah, there were
really
so
nice.
many of these gems not throughout. Yeah. In fact, that's what I was I put that out on the chat also, that this entire piece has been recorded. It's available for all of us on ICF Mumbai chapter YouTube channel. So we can always go back, pause, make more notes and everything, because there's so much out there. And I mean, thank you so much, Catherine. I feel immensely grateful for this. And We've been really, I must share with with everybody that it was last year this time when I connected with Catherine, and after one whole year we've been able to, and throughout she stayed, she stayed with me saying that, no, I'm going to do this. Oh, wow.
It's just not yet. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So happy birthday one more time, Catherine, and thank you so much for your time. You have spent so much of time with us on your birthday. So all our best wishes and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much
Catherine.
too.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye then. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
And yeah, bye to Kavita, Sagarika, Nandini. Thanks for this wonderful session.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Our pleasure.